lesson, we're going to describe circles, roles, and accountabilities. And at the end, you can start your own reflection about your contribution to your organization. Circles are the building blocks of the organization. Each circle is composed by roles that are assigned to individuals and is defined by a domain of activity and a purpose. The uppermost or main circle of an organization embodies the main purpose and encompasses all the domains of activity of the organization. The purpose of a circle and its domains are then distributed among all the roles that constitute the circle. In case a role is too complex to be assigned to a single person but rather requires a group of several people to be operated, then a subcircle is created. A representative of this subcircle, often called a lead, has responsibility to represent the subcircle within the main circle. In organizations that are fairly large, several layers of circles and subcircles may be needed to represent the whole activity. It is important to make a clear distinction between the concept of role and the concept of person. A role is not a person. Each role can be assigned to one or more persons. Sometimes we say that a person energizes a role. If multiple persons energize the same role, but do not necessarily need to be organized in a subcircle, one can define a specific focus for each of the persons assigned to the same role. For example, a company that has 2 salespersons may specify a regional focus for each of them. In the same way that roles can be assigned to more than one person, each person can play different roles, can energize different roles. It's like having multiple hats. And actually, it is increasingly common for people to adapt to different roles in totally different organizations. We call them slashers. So this picture of roles and people and this flexibility corresponds to the reality of the modern economy. Now, let's dive a little bit more in the definition of what constitutes a role. We will talk in more detail about domain, purpose, accountabilities, and metrics. A domain is an asset or an activity owned and controlled by a role. For example, in a communication role can be assigned the domain website. This means that only the communication role has a right to impact on the website, and any other role must seek for the explicit permission of the communication role to act on the website. The purpose is what justifies the existence of a role. A role will always have a purpose, whether it is implicit or explicit. And it is actually important to make it explicit in order to provide clarity to all the internal and external stakeholders that interact with it. So, for example, for a role called events, the purpose could be promote the recognition of the company by organizing events that will contribute to its purpose and attract a broad participation within the local community. The notion of authority to take an action in this framework comes from the purpose. The purpose grants the role an authority to take any action useful to express it, as long as this action does not violate the domain of another role or of another circle. Accountabilities are like a contract that a role, or rather a person that energizes a role, commit to in order to deliver specific deliverables to coworkers, to clients, or to any other stakeholders. So the accountability is an ongoing activity that the organization can expect from a specific role. And accountability also grants authority to the role holder to take actions useful to express it, again, as long as this does not violate the domain of another role or circles. However, contrary to domains, accountability does not limit the authority of others. For example, if there is a client database in an organization, a salesperson may have the accountability to update the database regularly about sales and commercial activity, but that does not prevent other roles from updating the same database. It only sets an expectation on this specific role so that others can count on it to take care for it. Metrics are measurements of what is happening in the organization. In a system where there is limited hierarchical control on individuals' activity, it is important to provide clarity to everyone on where the organization is standing in the achievement of its objectives. So metrics are quantitative measures that the role or the circle monitors regularly to verify that the accountabilities are being fulfilled in a satisfactory manner. For example, a salesperson will monitor the value of weekly sales. A marketeer can monitor the number of visits to the website. A doctor, for example, the number of patients treated every month, and so on and so on. Metrics can also be used for setting effective goals. For example, in a sales circle may set a quarterly objective to increase weekly sales by 50% by the end of this quarter. Depending on the actual system adopted, additional structural roles may be needed to ensure the proper functioning of each circle. For example, in holacracy, one defines at least for each circle a lead, which is the remnant, if you want, of the old manager that has some very specific duties and accountabilities, like make effective coaching technique available to all and make sure that the workplace is transformed into a source of personal fulfillment. The lead is the role that assigns partners to the other roles, monitor the fit to the assignment to the specific role. In general, is responsible for allocating resources across the projects and to establish the priorities. And it makes sure that metrics are defined for the circle. The one thing that is not present here from the old paradigm is power. The lead has no power over the rest of the circle. Another important role in holacracy is the facilitator that makes sure that meetings take place in the agreed procedures, and the secretary that is responsible for keeping the records of all the process of the circle. Now it's your turn. At the end of this video, you will find a little survey that will help you reflect on your current domains of activities, your purpose, your accountabilities, and your metrics. Thank you.